Welcome back into the studios of 70 North Avenue. This is the home of WWPT 90.3 FM. You're listening to Real Revelations, the radio show where we explore different viewpoints and perspectives of iconic films, past, present, and future. We've got a lot to cover today. I'm Charlie Scott, joined here alongside my good friend and fellow film buff, Henry Manning. Henry, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great, Charlie. It's great to be here.
I am so happy to have you on the show today. But in our first segment, I want to explore the idea of character development. So, Henry, when you hear those two words, character development, what is the first character that comes to mind?
Well, the first character that comes to mind for me has got to be Miles Morales from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, that's a great example. Speaking of, they got the new second installment coming, I believe, June 2nd, which is in just about a week from when we are recording this.
I cannot wait to see it.
So I am very excited for that movie. But as you were saying, why do you like Miles Morales' character arc so much?
Well, first of all, it's a great movie, which really helps out. But his character arc in the beginning, he's just this regular kid. He goes to school, whatever, and then he has these Spider-Man powers, and he's not sure how to use them, as I'm sure we all would be. And when the time comes where he has to use them, when he has to fight the big bad boss, he still isn't sure exactly how he is supposed to use them. But he has no choice. He's forced to figure it out. And then by the end of the movie, when he's fully realized exactly how he's supposed to use these powers and really how they work, and he's like fully a real-fledged Spider-Man, it's just a beautiful, and I think, honestly, it cultivates one of the best scenes in cinema history.
Yeah, so what are some of those directing and writing techniques from that movie that you think help build out Miles' character development?
So this one's kind of maybe not as noticeable, but in the beginning of the movie, when Miles isn't as comfortable being Spider-Man, he's actually animated at a lower frame rate.
That's crazy.
So he looks kind of more choppy and, not coordinated, but not as smooth as the other characters. And then at the end of the movie, when he's that full-fledged Spider-Man, he's animated at the full frame rate, and he looks just as smooth and ready as everybody else.
That is, I wonder, I don't understand how you even think of that. That is so creative from the directing standpoint. But another cinematographic, I guess, choice from this movie that I absolutely love comes in the leap of faith scene.
Right.
We get the speech from Peter B. Parker where he's like, Miles. And Miles is like, when will I know I'm ready? And Peter B. Parker's like, Miles, it's a leap of faith. And then he goes up the building, he gets ready, you got that fire song like, what's up, danger? And then
it's the greatest scene ever.
It's so good. And then he jumps off and he does a backflip, but he's falling down, but the camera's inverted, so it looks like he's rising up. And I'm pretty sure in the director's notes, it literally says, Miles is falling, but Spider-Man is rising, or something like that. You might have the direct quote in mind.
Yeah, it goes, Miles is not falling, but he is rising. And it's really true. He's rising to the occasion where he has to be Spider-Man.
And another shot example that I love that demonstrates Miles becoming Spider-Man and growing as a person is from the spider cave, I guess you would say, Aunt May's secret lab where they open up and go down the ladder and you get all the Spider-Man artifacts. But anyways, in this scene, Miles initially walks up to look at all the Spider-Man costumes, which, by the way, just got to put this out there, they're all references to the Spider-Man PS4 games. But anyways, moving on. So Miles goes up to the main Spider-Man suit and he looks up at it. And when he looks up, his reflection has not filled up the Spider-Man body and head yet. But after he does his leap of faith, after he becomes Spider-Man, he comes back to the same spot and he looks in the mirror, or he looks in the reflection, looks at the suit, and his head is fully filling the Spider-Man case, like the suit.
Yeah,
he's fully filling the suit. He's filling out the suit. He is Spider-Man now.
He is Spider-Man. And I got one more example. At the end of the movie, that leap of faith scene, it is shot for shot exactly similar to references in the beginning of the movie, right? Where in the beginning of the movie, he's falling and there's the onomatopoeia, those comic book letters, which is so fitting because the style of this movie is just insane. And he's falling down, he goes, ah, and it all flies behind him. And then in the second part of the movie where he's ready to be Spider-Man, it goes up instead of falling down. It's woohoo, and he goes up, and there's a reference where he jumps off the same bank, and instead of falling down, he flies down. Shot for shot, he is doing everything right. Where in the beginning of the movie, he wasn't really sure what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, just an absolutely incredible movie. But another character that I think of when I hear character development, which is almost like a reverse of character development, it's more of like a descent into madness, but I still like love the writing of it, is Walter White from Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah.
Like in the beginning of the show, like he literally is awkward at his own birthday party. He has no idea what to do with himself and with his life. He's broke. He has his son with cerebral palsy. His wife's pregnant with an unplanned baby. Like all these factors that just ruin his confidence in his life. And then all of a sudden he goes on this one trip and he starts cooking meth, and like he obviously that's horrible, but he like gains confidence from it. There's two aspects to this Walter White character arc. There is the bad side, obviously, which is the descent into like being like a psychotic murderer, meth cook, like horrible person. But on the other side, there's the good part where he is just gaining confidence and just having more fun in his life. Like, spoiler alert for those of you that have not watched the show, but in the finale he says, I didn't do it for the family, I did it for me.
He's living for himself.
He's living for himself, and for once in his life he is living for himself, and that is just an amazing written character. Some of his monologues are absolutely incredible. But another thing that I like to think of with character development is plot, because a lot of the times they kind of get confused with each other, like the plot being the character development or the character development being the plot. But I think it kind of depends on the director of the movie when you're thinking character versus plot. What do you think?
I think it depends on what type of story they're trying to tell, right? If you're trying to tell the story of, I'll go back to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you're trying to tell the story about how he becomes Spider-Man, then the story is his character development. That is the plot. It's how he becomes Spider-Man. And obviously there's like, oh yeah, the bad guys and all the other Spider people. But that's like, if you look at it big picture, that's not the plot. The plot is not the bad guy. It's how Miles becomes Spider-Man. But in other cases, there's a separate plot, and then there's a character development, which kind of, they coexist together and they do work together, but they're not the exact same thing.
Yeah, and I think one example of being together is in every Quentin Tarantino movie. I think Quentin Tarantino, his movies are about the people. Like Pulp Fiction, I personally am not a fan of Pulp Fiction just because I find it slightly boring because it's just literally people talking for 2.5 hours. If I want to listen to people talk for 2.5 hours, I'll turn on WWPT and listen to all the amazing talk shows we have here. But that movie, that plot is driven by these conversations that these characters are having. And another example is like Django Unchained. Of course, they're going to, I think it's Broomhilda, right? They're going to save Broomhilda, but that's about the characters. That's about Django's confidence. That's about, what was the Django's owner name?
I don't remember.
I think it was Walsh, or maybe that was the actor name. But anyways, it's about those characters going on that journey. Whereas when you look at something like a Christopher Nolan movie, who is easily my favorite director, like Inception, for example, the plot is obviously trying to perform Inception on Robert Fisher. However, Cobb's character development is learning that his reality doesn't matter. Reality is whatever he wants to make it. So the separation of those is what I prefer personally. What do you prefer when you say, like, do you prefer a more character-driven movie or a more plot-driven movie?
I kind of prefer the more character-driven movie. I like to see how people evolve and change with the times that they're faced with. And however, that being said, one of my favorite movies is Interstellar. And I think Matthew McConaughey's character doesn't change really at all throughout that course of the movie. He stays, family driven. He does almost everything for his daughter during that movie. He goes on space almost certain he's never going to see her again. And the plot of that movie is just, he's got to save the world or whatever.
Yeah. And I think another good example, I'm going to go back to Nolan just because he, I think, has the best separation of character development versus plot. And I got to go to Tenet, because Tenet is literally, there's like zero dialogue. You don't even know the main character's name.
The main character's name is protagonist.
The protagonist. Like, that is crazy. And I think Nolan just does a perfect job of, but despite him not having a name, he still has character development.
Yeah.
Because he learns that he thinks he's the boss. Mm-hmm. He thinks he can influence everything that's going to happen to him at all times. But by the end of the movie, he realizes what's happened. Whatever's going to happen to him is going to happen to him. Obviously, he has to try to change his future, but realistically, in certain cases, He can only do so much. And I just absolutely love that from Nolan, compared to more of a plot. I like the plot-driven movies, personally.
Yeah. What do you think about the Marvel movies? Are those more plot or character development?
See, that is a great question. I'm personally I'm a huge Marvel fan, so it really pains me to watch a movie like Ant-Man Quantumania and see like MODOK be like, I'm MODOK, I got a big head, and just like walk around. Like I cannot stand a movie like Ant-Man Quantumania, just being such a Marvel lover at heart. Like Endgame is just peak for me.
I used to love the Marvel movies, all those early stage movies, they were incredible. And I think recently they've kind of fallen off in terms of that department. I think they're just bad now. There's lack of a better word. I don't know if
I do got to say Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was absolutely gas. I highly recommend everyone watching goes and sees that. But I think the question with Marvel is the characters, because of the cinematic universe that they've developed, the characters don't change within one movie. They change over the course of the 8 movies that they appear in the saga. For example, Iron Man. He goes through his arc in Iron Man 1, but that arc gets further developed and further developed and further developed before Endgame, where he sacrifices himself to save the universe. And the same with Captain America, right? Like, he went back in time with Peggy, and he could have done so much saving back then, but he decided to just sit back and rest. And, not put his life on the line for once, whereas Tony was the opposite. They're just polar opposites of each other. They went in opposite directions, and I think that writing is amazing. However, it doesn't just happen in one movie for Marvel.
It's almost like they could have made a movie about how Iron Man and Captain America are just so different. Like, they could have made a movie, I don't know, called it Civil War or something, and just made an entire movie about how they butt heads.
Wow. It's almost like they did that. But that movie, that's a good movie to bring up, because I feel like that is one of the movies where more of that character development happens, because more of the one movie character development happens, right. I should say, because they start off like, this is my way, you need to listen. And then as the movie slowly progresses and they go through that whole fight at the Russian base, which is one of my favorite fight scenes just ever, like with the whole shot with Iron Man and the shield and like the blasts like going everywhere, that's just incredible. But anyways, that is more of a one movie character development, because they learned that they actually have more in common than they realized.
Exactly.
And so now I want to move on a little bit to a bit more of a advanced topic, I guess. Less about the characters, more about society and film's impact. So do you think, with the rise of TikTok, Instagram, all these short form medias, do you think that the shortened attention spans of people today is affecting the way big companies make movies and big cinema is happening?
I don't think it's affecting the way that they make the movies. I think it's affecting the way that we as the consumers watch the movies.
Okay, that's an interesting point. Like for example, Marvel movies. I want to go back to Marvel movies for a second, because it seems like Marvel is just trying to get as much money as they possibly can.
Which I agree. They have something. They're sitting on something great. They have these amazing characters and this fan base and this amazing like little universe that they have. And, at the end of the day, it is a business, and they're just doing it for the money, which is a real shame, because they have something amazing that they could really put out some amazing movies if they wanted to.
So, do you think that the directors should change their ways to like adapt to these shorter attention spans, or do you think they should just keep doing what they're doing and the people that want it will come? Like, build the ships and they will come, or change the ships around so you can get more people? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think they might have, with the introduction of all these new TV shows, these TV spin-offs. It's not super short, but it's shorter than a movie, right?
It's in shorter bites, at least.
Exactly, and it looks more appealing. If you were to eat an elephant, you would eat it in short bites. And so I think the creation of all these, new TV spin-offs is kind of their approach to the short form media game, so to speak. And I think that's how they're handling the shorter attention spans. However, there's always a time and place, for me at least, for a good long movie.
Yeah. So another question that kind of relates to this is like, what are your thoughts on dialogue versus cinematography? Because I'm going to go back to Marvel, just because I feel like Marvel is like the perfect example of like big Hollywood, like cinema money grabbing company, which is unfortunate that it has come to that. But like, for example, you got She-Hulk twerking with Megan Thee Stallion.
Ridiculous.
But at the same time, in that show, you have just like a lack of meaningful dialogue. So like, and you get like every Marvel movie just ends with like the CGI good guy fighting the CGI bad guy on a green screen in like some random world that we've never seen before. Like,
it's so ridiculous. It's so money grab. It's not even plot or character driven. I never watched She-Hulk, and I'm so thankful for that.
Don't. Anyone listening, do not watch She-Hulk. It is not worth it except for the one scene that doesn't have visual effects, and that's the hallway Daredevil scene towards the end. Search it up on YouTube. Like, literally do not sit through 8 hours of the show just to see Daredevil have a hallway fight scene.
Like, from what I've heard, it seems as if there's no plot at all, and they just put it out for no reason, I guess, to get Megan Thee Stallion in a Marvel TV show.
Yep. And I completely agree. And I think, although I'm more of a plot-driven person, I think dialogue is more important and more meaningful than cinematography.
For sure.
An example of this would be in, what am I trying to think of? The Batman.
I was about to say the Batman.
The Batman has some crazy dialogue. Some like Thursday, October 31st, the city street, like that whole opening monologue with like all the shots and the rain. I think when a movie can combine cinematography and dialogue, that's when it's at its peak. But if it's lacking one or the other, I think dialogue is more important than the if it needs to choose one to focus on. I think dialogue is the better one to focus on.
I agree, and I'm going to focus in on the cinematography aspect of the Batman right now. They made it feel dirty. Gotham felt greasy and filthy and just gross. And when they had Robert Pattinson's like makeup, we've never seen that side of Batman before. Where you see, it's raining. Of course, there's going to be the makeup just drenched all over his face. That felt real. They really they made it feel solid. It wasn't hollow, which I think is kind of the problem. I'm going to go back to Marvel. Those shows feel hollow. It's CGI, everything's lit up super bright. You can see everything perfectly. It looks like a coloring book. It's so just boring and hollow now.
Yeah. And it looks like a coloring book is just a perfect way to describe Ant-Man Quantumania. I mean, holy moly. If you've seen that movie, you know exactly what we're talking about. But I got to go back to the Batman because the way you describe that it feels dirty is like the perfect way to describe that. And I think it's something where people can relate to Batman more. Like The Dark Knight, those movies, amazing. Don't get me wrong. I love The Dark Knight. I'm more of the Batman fan than I am the Dark Knight trilogy fan, just because I feel like I can relate to Bruce Wayne and Batman a little bit more in the Batman.
I think the trilogy is kind of more like, here's Batman being Batman, like doing his like Batman thing. And then the Batman is like, here's Batman behind the mask when he has to deal with a tough situation and, his parents and, Catwoman and Alfred. And you really see who he is as more of a person instead of just the guy behind the mask.
Yeah. And also something that they did in that movie as well was like, they included Thomas Wayne as a target, I guess you could say, for the Riddler.
Yeah.
But actually it was Bruce Wayne. Mm-hmm. So literally, without the Riddler knowing that Bruce Wayne is Batman, he was going for Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Like that just shows they interlock more. The Bruce Wayne and the Batman aspects in the Batman. Sorry, it kind of gets confusing when I say the Batman and then the Batman. When I say the Batman, I just got to clarify. When I say the Batman, that is the title of the movie.
They could have named it so much better.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
Anyways, but like when I say the Batman, I'm saying the movie. But I think that the way that Bruce Wayne and Batman's life intertwine in the Batman is way better than The Dark Knight or any of the other movies.
I'll agree with you, and I think the trilogy, not like it feels like a lot more coloring book-esque, but it feels more kind of like playful than the Batman, which feels like gritty and just so real, and like like the thumb drive scene that's put onto a thumb, and like the part where he's like on like the FaceTime with the cracked phone.
It's more of a horror movie.
It's more
of a detective movie.
It's like a thriller detective movie with but Batman's a detective.
But whereas The Dark Knight is like a full-on superhero movie because he's like flying the plane through Gotham, and it's more grounded.
Yeah, it's Batman like we've never seen it before.
Absolutely. And I think another part of that is it ties into kind of something that we mentioned before, which is Hollywood versus like independent cinema.
Right.
And that's like Batman, like I keep having to explain this to my dad because I hated DC up until the Batman came out. Like Batman versus Superman. Oh, don't even get me started on how horrible that movie is. Wonder Woman 84. Oh my goodness, that's a coloring book and a half right there. Like all these DC movies, these money grabs. Okay, side note, just gotta pop into a side note real quick. The Flash is getting insane reviews.
Is it?
Yeah,
it did
like
not look good at all.
Like with Michael Keaton Batman, like Superwoman.
Oh, that was actually funny though. When he popped out and he was like,
Let's get nuts. Let's get nuts. Like,
that was actually hysterical.
It just looks like another DC money grab, but people are saying it's genuinely good, which I don't see how that's possible. But anyways,
once in a blue moon they can get it right.
That's true. But anyways, what I was gonna get to before I went on a little bit of a tangent there is that the DCEU represents that big Hollywood cinema, money-grabbing movies, whereas The Batman, which is a solo movie directed by Matt Reeves, is more of independent cinema. And it shows why I think that independent cinema is a little bit is way better than these big Hollywood.
And the reason
companies.
why is the motive. The Hollywood movies are doing it to make money, and the independent studios or films or whatever are doing it for the love of filmmaking and cinematography and the story that they want to tell. They're doing it as a real passion, and everybody else is doing it so they can see Megan Thee Stallion twerk with She-Hulk. Cannot believe that they did that, by the way. When I first heard about that, I thought somebody was making a horrible joke.
Nope. That's real.
It's bad.
It's real. But like these big budget films like Marvel, this, that, and the other, just money grabs. And that's another reason why I love Christopher Nolan so much, is he's just doing his own thing with Oppenheimer right now.
And he's a legend.
He's an absolute GOAT. And like Barbie too, like that does not, I mean, it's Barbie, but I feel like that's not a money grab. Also, if it was a money grab, they'd make it PG, but I'm pretty sure it's PG-13.
Is the difference that big?
No, but I'm saying like it's Barbie. You think it'd be like 5-year-old girls like, oh my God, it's Barbie. But now it's like Ryan Gosling fans and like Margot Robbie lovers are going to see this movie. Like I'm going to see this movie for Ryan Gosling.
I think it's more so they're putting a little bit more adult-ish humor in there. And
I'm going to beat you off.
Yeah, you don't. Like,
BEACH.
Yeah, like they're doing kind of that thing, which just is a little too far above like the PG limit. I think in PG-13 they get like one F word or something like that. Like
they do. That's correct.
Like, I can't wait to see who gets the word there.
I'm just so looking forward to this movie.
I don't even know what it's about. Like obviously Barbie, but like, is it just them like hanging out? Is there like
I think it's them
plot?
Like they like transfer to the real world and like have to survive in the real world for a little while until they get like transported back to Barbie Land or something.
I don't know. Can't wait to see it.
I cannot wait to see it either. It's looking like Ant-Man and the Wasp, but like reversed. Like instead of going down in the quantum realm, they come up to the real world. But I'm hoping it's not
as coloring.
Not as color. Well,
no, I'm kidding.
It is a Barbie movie, so it's literally going to be oversaturated with the colors. But
that's
by
the
not.
point.
But that's the point. But that's the point. Right? Exactly. That's the point. But in Ant-Man Quantumania, when you have these rainbow blasts going off left and right, and an army of ants charging some CGI tower, like,
I think it all comes down to purpose and reason and motive behind all of it, and if your motive is for the love of it and to really make a good product, then your movie will be good. Not always, but most likely. And if your motive is let's make some money, that's ridiculous and you shouldn't make a movie.
Another franchise that just pisses me off is the Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like 14 now or
Don't ask me. I haven't seen a single one of them, but like I see some clips from the old ones and they're like actually racing. But now in this Fast X, you got like Dom Toretto driving off a mountain and pulling down 2 helicopters with strings attached to his thing, and like he gets superpowers.
Yeah,
he does earthbending. He's a driver. He's a regular guy. Like, what is this?
It's franchises that don't know how to die because there's still money in them. So they're gonna make movies till the money runs out.
Absolutely outrageous, but we covered so much today. We went from character development to big cinema, from CGI to dialogue, practical effects, just about everything you can imagine for a movie talk show. This has been Charlie Scott here with my fellow friend Henry Manning. This was Real Revelations here on WWPT 90.3 FM. We're signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in today.